When you spend $77,000 on a vehicle, you expect some level of perfection, some level of just basic functionality that a normal day-to-day driver might have. Well, 5 weeks ago, I purchased a Tesla Model Y. It's a performance model, 2020, brand new. It was the first new vehicle I've ever purchased. I built it out in their online configurator, and poof, it arrived at my house. I was super excited to own this vehicle, and it is an expensive car, so I had done my research before I purchased it. Well, none of that research, none of the YouTube videos, none of the articles ever mentioned these three things. And I'm truly being honest here when I say, if I had known these three things and actually really thought about it when I was test driving it, I would not have bought this vehicle. Now, I've put over 4,000 miles on the car in the last 5 weeks. I'm someone who drives about 50,000 miles a year. I have a large garage full of cars. I love to drive. So I notice all the little details. And I have never, ever, from any vehicle that I've purchased, wanted to sell a car, pretty much ever. And so me wanting to sell this within 5 weeks, when the quickest vehicle I've ever sold was 13 months, it's a pretty big issue. So I'm personally not that large of a fan, at least of the Tesla Model Y. Now, it doesn't mean you shouldn't buy one, it's just not for me. This car is getting voted off, it is gone. So if you wanna buy one, let me know. But other than that, make sure to smash a quick like down below, and let's go grab the car and jump into this video. All right, so now that we are in the car, I just wanna make it clear that I'm not joking when I say I've experienced this car extensively. In fact, I have an entire bed set up in the back with a 4-inch foam mattress topper that's 6 foot 5 inches long. I've spent 4 nights in this vehicle. I've slept in it for many naps while on road trips when my friend is driving. And this vehicle, overall, I'd give a positive rating, but the fact is, I didn't buy this to be my only car. Now, if it was my only vehicle, okay, it might make sense and I could potentially maybe overlook some of these issues. But I bought this car for the purpose of road trips, which was actually a huge mistake looking back. I wanted to be able to sleep in the vehicle. I wanted to travel and go to more remote places without having to buy a huge 40-foot RV that would just be a hassle to drag everywhere, right? And then you got to tow a car or a motorcycle of some kind behind it. So I've experienced sleeping in this vehicle, again, 4 full nights and many, many naps while the car is on camp mode, which is a great feature that they have, which I'll show you. When you take a look at the air conditioning here, where you can change the direction of it, you can see me in the reflection, you can change the direction of the air conditioning, which is awesome, but you also get these modes, off, on, dog mode, right, in case your dog is in the vehicle and you want to go in the store, and then camp mode. Now, camp mode is really cool because from my experience, it only takes about 20 to 25 miles worth of the battery for you to sleep a full 8 hours with the air conditioning cranked, and it displays a fireplace on the screen, which is just a super cool feature. You can have the fireplace crackling in the background. And that's not a lot of battery considering this car holds 300 miles worth of battery if you're at a full charge. So that's just one of the great features, and that's one of the reasons that I personally decided to purchase it. Now, let me show you the first on this list of 3 that we're going to discuss today, and this is the biggest issue, in my opinion, with the vehicle. Now, Tesla has a 7-day return policy, which is super cool. When you buy the vehicle, you have exactly 7 days or 1,000 miles, whichever comes first, to return the vehicle and get a full refund. Your sales tax will be refunded, everything. I think you might lose $100. So it's really cool, and in fact, it's even cheaper than renting a Tesla, so it could be a smart option. But this one thing that I'm about to share with you almost made me return the car within 3 days because I just couldn't live with it. And then I'm like, okay, let me give it a proper chance on a road trip, and now I definitely can't live with it. So let me show you. And that is this sucker, the headrest. Take a look at it. So obviously the seat is angled up a little more than normal, but you can also see the passenger. This is just at a weird angle, okay? And you might say, well, what does that matter, right? It's just at a weird angle. Can't you change it? Well, in a normal car, you could change it. I'm sorry for the terrible lighting here. In the Tesla, at least in the Model Y, you cannot alter the angle of these headrests. And I'm someone personally who has some back and neck problems. I've broken my back snowboarding. I've been in the chiropractor all the time, and it's something that I work on every single day. So when I have something where it's a seat and it's not properly supporting you in terms of posture, it's really painful, and I personally cannot be in that environment. So I'm very particular inside of my office with what kind of chair I have and stuff like that, as well as my bed and my pillows. So from a vehicle perspective, you would would just expect us, not even just with the price range of this car, but for any car, new car, why would they not add probably a $60 feature that allows you to move the headrest, right? Something that slight, and maybe I'm just an idiot and haven't discovered it, but I looked extensively online and even asked a rep at Tesla, and they said, no, I'm sorry, there's no way that you can adjust that. So that right there for me is a deal breaker. And in terms of daily driving comfort, because this was kind of going to be a side-by-side daily driver with my BMW M4, and then obviously a road trip vehicle, it just didn't make sense because it truly is a little bit painful to drive. It's just a little too far forward, and I've tried messing with the angle of the seat, like kind of leaning further back or forward, and you know, that kind of helps, but it doesn't give it the proper effect that just a normal car, like a $7,000 used Toyota Camry would have that option. Any car has that option, so it's just weird. I mean, Tesla, what's up with that? So that's number one. Now, let's talk about number two. Now, let's say we want a road trip to New York, okay? I'm currently in Arizona. New York, let's see how far this is. Okay, this is the second problem with the vehicle that I had a problem with, especially on road trips. It's really cool. It maps out exactly where you're gonna have to stop. They've thought about it every which direction throughout the country. But here's the problem that I noticed. With all these locations that they put on here, they say, okay, you're gonna have to charge for 20 minutes here, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, 35. Okay, if you were to add up all this time, 2,400 miles, this should normally be like a 24-hour, 26-hour trip. It goes to 36 hours, but here's the kicker. I can now personally guarantee you that you will have no choice but to stay longer than their estimated time. On average, when I was driving from Arizona to Utah, which should be a 10-hour drive, it took 15 and a half hours for two reasons. Well, the main reason is the battery, but number one is I would have no choice but to stay longer at the charger because I knew the estimated range was off. So I would stay at a 25-minute block that's recommended to make sure you get there with a healthy amount of battery. I would stay for 35 minutes. I'd stay almost double as long, and I would reach the next supercharger with like 7 miles of range. So not only was I sweating balls during the car drive because I'm worried about getting stuck on the side of the road, which happened one time when I was driving around Arizona, super annoying process to deal with that, but the actual battery range, and maybe it's just my vehicle, maybe it's because it's a new car, but driving under the speed limit on cruise control with no extra additional features on, just at 75 miles an hour, this vehicle drops at a 2.3x average rate of what the estimated range is. So when Tesla says right now that I have 223 miles, in my opinion, that means to me I have maybe 100. Okay, and I have to be very careful with where I go, especially with, and this is not one of the three reasons, but with where I live, the nearest supercharger is almost 30 minutes away. So it's just ridiculous. And unless you want to pay over, I think it's a couple $1,000s to get a Tesla supercharger installed at your house, which I got quotes on. My breaker box is on the complete other side of the house than the garage. It was going to be almost $3,000 to run the lines over there and get everything set up. So a little bit ridiculous to do that, and it's just something to think about when you're road tripping because it's a huge inconvenience. It makes the time so much, which leads us into our third point here, which is the electricity cost. Now, if you're charging at home, it can be a lot less. And I actually know someone who's close to me who has a Tesla, and they said, hey, it's great because the Tesla battery only costs about 15 to 20% to fill up than regular gas does. Well, I haven't found that to be the case, and it's because I'm not really ever charging it at my home because I only charge it like 5 miles every hour, which takes forever. So when I'm out driving around and stop at a supercharger, guess how much it costs? 90% the cost of gas. Okay, you might be like, well, hey, you're still saving 10%. That's like $6 or less off every tank of gas or tank of electricity in this situation. Well, you're having to drive very far out of your way in almost every situation to get to a supercharger. And how long does it take to get gas? 3 minutes, maybe 4. You're talking 40 minutes to 55 minutes to fill up from near empty to near full, not even fully full on the Tesla. So it's a huge waste of time. And that for me is the third reason, because I expected, hey, this was going to be a very efficient car in terms of the fuel, right? Electricity here, just to operate. And not that it's the end of the world, but all my other cars are gas guzzlers. They get most of them less than 10 miles to the gallon. It's just terrible, right? But I have fun with it. So I was excited excited at the prospect of owning a vehicle that was just gonna be so cheap to operate, and it was just kind of like tickled my pants because it was like, ooh, like that's exciting. Let's, you know, only spend like $13 a month on electricity. So unfortunately, it hasn't been the case. Again, I do love this vehicle. It's a great car. I'll show you my bed setup here in a moment. But, you know, especially for a road trip here, it's super cool that they outline all this and they do have chargers. But here's what my perspective is. I would personally keep this car, even with maybe the headrest issue, just as a, you know, a normal vehicle to have for road trips, because normally I have a friend drive and I'll be in the back and then we'll switch. So, and I'll sit on my laptop and work back there and everything. It's totally cool. There's plenty of space. And that's why I got the Model Y. It's larger. But in my opinion, Tesla is just not far along yet, or not far along enough yet, in terms of their supercharger placement. They're so spread out, and when you're doing a road trip driving through the middle of nowhere, they truly are really far apart. And that's a problem, because I get so worried, and it's really annoying when you're in an 80-mile-an-hour zone and the car is barking at you saying you must drive under 60 miles an hour if you want to make it to your next destination. Now, a bonus point here on something that's almost a deal breaker for me as well is the headlights, okay? And take a look at these things. The headlights look super cool. They look super fancy. You might be like, Hayden, what's the issue with these, right? Super sleek, amazing body lines. They're very bright. Well, the problem is, and I've only experienced this on the Model Y, these headlights, for some reason, I think they're angled up a little bit too much. So especially when you're driving at night, and especially on road trips, everybody, and when I say everybody, I literally mean like 70% of cars and semi-trucks think that you have your brights on. So I'm driving along and I feel bad because everybody's flashing me with their brights, and then I kind of chuckle and flash them with mine, and just boom, like lights up the whole road. And then I'm sure they kind of feel like an idiot. But regardless, it's just not correct, the sizing and proportion of the lights. It does look like, even when you turn your fog lights off, you know, for your Tesla fanatics that are going to tell me to do that, even when you do that, you're still getting flashed in the Model Y. I have not had that experience in the Model 3. So I think the headlights are different. So that's just kind of a bonus point. But those three things, when you combine the headrest issue, the range issue, which is definitely a problem, especially in terms of the range dropping too fast, even when you're not driving aggressively, as well as the placement of the superchargers, and then you factor in the cost of electricity when you're not charging at home, this vehicle that I thought was going to make a lot of financial sense and just be practical to own has become, for me, just an inconvenience and something that I no longer want to deal with. So that's just my perspective after owning the car for 5 weeks. I know I just made a video like when I bought the car like 4 or 5 weeks ago, talking about how much I love it. And again, that hasn't changed. I love the vehicle. It's a great car. And you know what? If I was just going to park it, rarely drive it, and just like sleep in it every once in a while, maybe it would make sense. But for a vehicle that's somewhat close to $100,000, there's definitely got to be something better in that category, because I bought this car partially for all those reasons, but I also wanted an SUV just because I needed some more space. And I was looking at the Lamborghini Urus, different, you know, BMW SUVs, and I'll probably end up going with something else for the time being, just to experience more vehicles. So that is my opinion on the 2020 Tesla Model Y Performance, which again has been a great car. There's just some things that are hugely negative components, and I want to give you one more before we leave here. This is something that was just really annoying for me personally, and that's the autopilot, which is a huge reason why people buy this car. The autopilot, on average, from me timing it multiple times, on average every 27 seconds when you're on autopilot on the highway, like a fairly empty highway, every 27 seconds it flashes at you right here, just in blue, and you have to touch the steering wheel and move it. So I just kind of grab it, give it a little wiggle so that it knows you're still paying attention. Now, it gets really annoying, and in different situations it might be every 10 seconds. I've had that happen for like a 40-mile stretch. It all depends on how many cars are on the road. Is it a divided or an undivided highway? Are you driving in the daytime, at night? How many cars are around? How fast are you going? And it won't let you do it above a certain speed. So it really became an inconvenience. Now, Tesla does have the technology to let it be on autopilot forever, but they took it off because it was a huge Tesla fan, unfortunately, I believe in Florida, who actually passed away in a vehicle. He was killed driving his Tesla because I think he was watching a movie while driving, and he had been on autopilot for like 2 hours and wasn't having to touch the steering wheel, and a The Tesla couldn't discern the difference between the gap underneath the semi-truck and the actual white of the semi-truck, and he went full speed right underneath the semi-truck. The whole car and himself got decapitated, which was super unfortunate. And so that is kind of, in at least from my research, that's the reason why Tesla now has this little strategy implemented where you have to touch the steering wheel, which I was not made aware of, and it was super inconvenient, especially in terms of road trips. So yeah, those are just a couple of key things with the vehicle. I think that's more like 5 or 6, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate if you smash a like down below. I don't want to discourage anyone from buying a Tesla. I just want to encourage you to be educated about any decision you're making, whether it's with your career, whether it's with what kind of like slippers to buy. It could be anything, right? All the way down to the type of car that you're making a decision on potentially purchasing, okay? So I hope this informed you. I hope it educated you. I'd greatly appreciate it. Again, if you smash a like down below, it helps me out a lot. Feel free to check out some of the other car videos on this channel. I have a lot of other business videos as well, which is the primary content here. So you might just want to search for car videos. Lamborghini is a big keyword here. So I do a lot of fun stuff here and there on the channel, and will continue to do so. So hopefully you feel like subscribing. And with that being said, I'll be seeing you in another video. Peace.